Hey, what is up, guys? We are here with the gold pre-show. Now, if you guys missed the silver pre-show, the bronze pre-show, any of the silver climb or any of the bronze climb, check out the description down below. There'll be a link to the playlist that has all those videos. Now, today we're here with the gold climb. I thought we would go over something that I feel gold players should know. If you guys missed the silver or bronze pre-show, we did the same kind of thing. We went over stuff where you should know before you head into your qualifying matches for those levels. Now, today we're going to talk about basic shadow countering. So if you guys don't know how shadow countering works, it's pretty self-explanatory in the name, I think, and you guys will catch on pretty quick. So shadow counters cost 1 bar of meter to use, and anytime you're in block stun, which means you're blocking something, you can hit medium punch and medium kick together to shadow counter, right? Now, the way this is going to work most of the time is that you want to use it to counter multi-hitting moves, or you can use it as a guess in some situations, which we'll get into. But for the most part, when you learn how to shadow counter the basics, you should really just be focusing on, you know, consistent shadow counters that work every time, right? So I'll show you guys a couple of them. As I mentioned in the other videos, shadow counters in, shadow moves in Killer Instinct always hit 5 times, right? So because of that, it makes shadow countering them pretty easy. Like I mentioned, shadow counters work very well against moves that consistently hit you multiple times, right? Because shadow counters, when you activate them, will come out, and if your opponent hits you again, then they will activate themselves and the super move will come out, which I'll show you guys right now. So, as I mentioned, shadow moves in Killer Instinct hit 5 times, as you can see there. The shadow fireball's 5 hits, shadow wing kick's 5 hits, shadow uppercut is 5 hits, but he blocked it. I have auto block on. So yeah, every shadow move in this game is 5 hits. Besides, there's maybe a couple exceptions, like, you know, throws, and one of Conrad's hits 10 times instead of 5 times. But besides that, every shadow move hits 5 times. There's 99% of them do, which makes shadow countering them pretty easy and pretty consistent. So I'll show you guys an example of a shadow counter on a shadow move. So I'm going to have my opponent do shadow wind kick and then try to block after, right? So he's going to be holding back to block. Now, I'm going to try to jab it. As you can see here, shadow moves in KI are safe for the most part. Some are even plus, you know, they're plus on block. Some are negative, like shadow uppercuts are obviously not safe because, you know, you go straight up in the air, it's an uppercut. But shadow moves that move horizontally like that are for the most part safe, right? The only way for you to be able to punish them is by using a shadow counter. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. So, shadow counter comes out and I hit my opponent. Now, notice that I waited until the second to last hit to shadow counter. As I mentioned, when you press medium punch or medium kick, the shadow counter will come out. You have to hit it on the 4th attack so that it counters the 5th. Watch what happens if I hit it early. So, because this move is multi-hitting, it'll just blow right through it if I try it on another hit. But if I do it on the 4th hit, 1, 2, 3, 4, then it'll come out on the 5th hit and it'll work. So that is the basics of shadow countering. Shadow countering is what you want to do on the second to last hit of a shadow move to counter it. Now, can you shadow counter things that are not shadow moves? Yes, you can shadow counter any multi-hitting move because, you know, it has to hit more than once for you to be able to get a shadow counter in. So certain things are consistently shadow counterable. Stuff that hits twice every single time or 3 times or 4 times, you know, consistently is very easy to shadow counter. An example of that is Jago's forward heavy kick. So I'm going to have him block after. Jago's forward heavy kick is plus on block, which makes it a very strong tool, but it's very easy to shadow counter. It's very strong shadow counter bait. And as you can see there, it's pretty consistent to do. It's not something that's super tough either. And that is just one example of it. There's all kinds of multi-hitting moves that I'll show you in just a second that react like that. Now, are there shadow counter attempts where you can guess? There are. You don't always have to do it in a situation like that, right? Let's say you think your opponent's going to jump in and walk up and do stand medium kick, right? That's what you think your opponent's going to do. Right? Oh, I mistimed it a little bit there. So you can shadow counter that, right? But the problem with a shadow counter like that is that it is actually a guess. Because if he does this, then your shadow counter won't work. Because shadow counters only activate if an attack hits them. So, yeah, nothing's going to happen there. So keep that in mind, that shadow counters can also be baited as well. So it's not always something that you want to go to right away because, as I mentioned, it costs a 1 bar of meter, and in situations like that, it can be a guess. So I'll show you guys a couple of things with another character that you can shadow counter pretty easily, and we'll wrap things up with the gold pre-show. So let's look. I'll pick Saberwolf. and Thunder. Thunder has a lot of things you can shadow counter, so I'll show you guys. Besides normal shadow moves, you can also counter a couple of Thunder's moves, and I'll show you guys an example of something that's a little tricky to shadow counter. So, Thunder has an overhead, which is forward heavy punch, right, like that, and he can special cancel it. But it can also be shadow counter, just like Jago's forward roundhouse. It's a 2-hitting move, same kind of idea. One of the things from Thunder that is also easy to shadow counter is his triple axes. Now, the confusing part about Thunder's triple axe is that the heavy version hits 3 times. So you want to shadow counter the 3rd hit, right? But if your opponent does the jab or the medium punch version, it only hits twice. So if I want to shadow counter the 3rd hit, it's not there. So that is something that you have to keep in mind and learn how to do character to character, you know what I mean? Because shadow countering this move is a lot different than this move. So, you know, keep that in mind. Like if I see this, let's say I block it, I'm like, oh, I'm going to shadow counter that next time on the 3rd hit. Well, the 3rd hit doesn't come, it doesn't exist. So keep that in mind. Shadow counters are a very, very strong tool, and learning how to use shadow counters well is super important in Killer Instinct. But it is something that takes practice, and it is something you have to get used to. And especially I recommend taking this to training mode and just trying it out. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. You guys are ready for the gold climb. You learned a little something here, and let's hop right into it.